Ever since we first looked up at the stars, humanity's been on this quest. We're always looking for one thing: order. It's like we're hardwired to find the signal in the noise, right? To find the pattern in the chaos. And today, we're going to dive deep into that search.
So that leads to this huge question, doesn't it? Is the universe just random noise? Or is it humming with some kind of hidden rhythm? Well, we're going to explore this by looking at 3 totally different places people find order. We'll start with a foundational story, then dig into a hidden symmetry, and finally, we'll look at the very code of reality itself.
Okay, so let's start with one of the oldest tools we have for making sense of the world: stories. I mean, these big foundational stories, they give us a framework, right? A sense of our place and our purpose. And for our first example, we're going to look at a story that has shaped so much of Western culture: the creation account in the book of Genesis.
Just think about this one line. It sets up this really profound order for our whole existence. It's telling us we have this dual nature. On one hand, we're totally earthly, right? Made from the dust of the ground. But on the other, there's something divine breathed into us, the breath of life. It's a story that frames our entire identity, right from the get-go.
And this whole story, it unfolds kind of like a 5-act play. It's a structured way to explain, well, the human condition. So, Act 1, creation. Humanity is seen as this sacred gift. Then comes Act 2, freedom. We're given choice in this world of abundance. Of course, that leads to Act 3, disobedience, where a choice is made to go for a different kind of wisdom. And that choice, it brings Act 4, consequences. Peace is fractured, relationships are broken. But here's the thing, the story doesn't just end in despair. The final act is all about mercy. Yeah, humanity is disciplined, but not abandoned. It's this complete arc that gives a kind of order and meaning to our struggles and our potential.
But what if the order isn't just in the meaning of the story? What if it's hidden in the actual structure of the text itself? Okay, let's pivot. We're moving away from narrative and into numbers, and we're about to look for a pattern that is, well, it's pretty astounding, frankly.
153. I mean, on its own, it's just a number, right? But what if this exact number could reveal a startling symmetry hidden deep inside the very architecture of the Bible?
Now, you might have heard of this number. It famously shows up in the New Testament when the disciples catch exactly 153 fish. And scholars for centuries have been debating what it could possibly mean. But its real significance might be buried way deeper in the text than anyone ever realized.
Okay, so here's the stunning part. This number, 153, it acts like 2 giant bookends holding the entire Bible together. Seriously, you've got a block of chapters at the very beginning and another block at the very end, and they both add up to this exact same number.
All right, let's start at the beginning. If you take the first 4 books of the Bible, that's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, and you add up all their chapters, what do you get? The total is exactly 153.
Okay, now for the mind-blowing part, the symmetry. If you go to the very end of the Bible and you count backwards from the last chapter of Revelation all the way to the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke, guess what? You land on exactly 153 chapters. Again, it's 2 identical blocks, perfectly balanced at both ends of this massive collection of texts.
And just to put that into perspective for you, the entire Protestant Bible has 1,189 chapters. So the odds of finding 2 identical blocks of 153 chapters, framing the whole thing perfectly, just by chance, well, for a lot of people, this points to an absolutely incredible intentional design.
So, we've seen order in story, and we've seen it in structure. Now, for our final example, let's look for order in, well, in the most fundamental fabric of reality we know, mathematics. And we're going to talk about the atoms of arithmetic, prime numbers.
So what exactly is a prime number? It's simple, really. It's a number bigger than 1 that you can only divide by itself and the number 1. You know, like 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, those guys. You could think of them as the indivisible, pure elements of the math world.
And that's what makes them so incredibly important. It's like, just as atoms are the building blocks for molecules, prime numbers are the building blocks for all other whole numbers. You multiply them together and you can create any other number. They are the absolute core of how numbers work.
But here's the real mystery. Primes seem to follow a pattern, but it's unpredictable. We know for a fact there are 25 primes in the first 100 numbers and 168 in the first 1,000. So they get rarer as you go higher, but, and this is the wild part, mathematicians have proven they're infinite. They never, ever run out. It's this beautiful order that feels like it's just beyond our grasp.
And this order isn't vague, it is incredibly precise. Between 1 and 10,000 primes, there aren't about 1,200 primes. No, there are exactly 1,229. That's not an approximation. It's a cold, hard fact about the fundamental structure of our number system.
So, why does any of this deep mathematical order even matter? Well, because this beautiful, unpredictable pattern, it's the key to our entire digital world. The security that protects your online banking, your emails, every bit of your private data, it's all built on the profound, mysterious, and totally reliable nature of prime numbers.
So let's just step back for a second. We've looked at three completely different kinds of order, haven't we? First, the narrative order of a creation story that gives meaning to our lives. Then, that shocking structural symmetry hidden in an ancient text. And finally, the fundamental logic of prime numbers that literally secures our modern world.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really provocative question. When we find these patterns, in stories, in texts, in math, are we discovering a genuine external order, a sign of some kind of grand design, or are we just seeing a reflection of our own minds? Minds that are relentlessly, beautifully, and maybe even desperately wired to find meaning in absolutely everything. That's something to think about.